Staying in Contact. I'm London Mitchell. When my separation from Cumulus Broadcasting happened about 3 years ago, many people encouraged me to continue a public affairs program I had hosted for almost 30 years. The program was dubbed Contact. Josh David, who programs the Towpath internet radio stations, immediately said he would air the program if I continued, and we have also expanded to almost all the major podcast outlets. So was born Staying in Contact. I'm pleased to announce that since we started Staying in Contact, we have produced more than 150 episodes. We have talked with politicians, community leaders, authors, activists, all with an interest in improving the quality of life in our corner of the world, Northwest Ohio. I want to thank everyone who has been along for the ride. Thank you for your interest, your support, and your encouragement. And as long as you are still listening, I'll push on, hopeful of producing another 150 episodes. This week's discussion really began when I was having dinner with my granddaughter, who works in a veterinary office. We were chatting about care for our pets, especially dogs, during the really hot weather. She brought to light some suggestions I had not thought about, but I did think it was a good topic for this program. And so it is with great pride I introduce my granddaughter, Madison Smith, and my query about precautions we should be taking.
There's a couple of different aspects of answering that question. First is just general outward physical safety for them. If we think it's too hot outside for us, it's probably too hot for them as well, because they don't have high heat tolerances. So the ground, for one, if we think it's too hot outside, the ground is probably too hot to touch. Therefore, their paws shouldn't be on it. A good way to check for that is to actually put your hand on the ground. And if you think that it's too warm to hold your hand there for a few seconds, your dog shouldn't have their paws on it. And if it's too warm outside, their body temperature, they already run a lot warmer than humans do. Typically, their body temperatures can go up to almost 103 degrees. So if it's too hot outside, their body temperatures can also rise even more, which makes it even harder to cool them down.
Well, if the ground that they're walking on is too hot, what must it be like if we're taking our dog for a walk down a sidewalk or on a, I don't know, paved driveway, a blacktop driveway?
I'd expect that it could be pretty uncomfortable and painful for them. A lot of dogs that do walk on pavement that's too warm, their paw pads can blister. They can tear and they can get burns on them, just like we would if we touched a hot stove. And that's obviously a very long-term, uncomfortable injury to have, seeing as that they put all of their body weight on those to get around and move, and they use their paws for everything, for mobility, for playing, for getting toys and treats. A good way to prevent that, though, is to try and avoid taking your dogs outside when it is this hot, waiting until the sun starts to set when it's cooler, going first thing in the morning, avoiding those peak prime hours of the day where the sun is at its highest and the temperature is hot.
You know, I'm thinking normally dogs really want you to be happy with them. So they're not likely to complain about the heat on their paws. Is that true?
For some dogs, definitely. Most breeds are very people-oriented. They want to please their owners and those around them, and they're just happy to be included in whatever you're doing. And a lot of dogs look forward to their daily walk because that might be their only form of exercise or one-on-one time with their owners. So most dogs would continue a walk even if it is hurting their paws. You could notice that maybe their gait changes. They might tippy tap a bit or try and rush their walk. If they're normally a good leash walker, they might be pulling on that walk to try and get off of the hot pavement sooner. But most dogs probably wouldn't have an outright reaction to showing that pain or discomfort.
What if you've made the mistake and you've taken your pet, your dog, on a walk? It's very hot blacktop that you've been walking on, and you realize that there are some blisters maybe forming on the paws of your pet. What should you do?
Well, you could start with just trying to clean them the best you can, soaking them in some water, not too cold because that could be a shock to the system, but definitely like a room temperature water to soak them in. At pet stores, you can get over the counter like betadine. That's a good cleansing solution. And then typically, if you reach out to your vet, they could probably give you a pet safe cream to put on the paws to help soothe the area as well.
Yeah, and I would imagine that being in a hot car is not a good idea. We hear a lot about don't leave children in hot cars. The same must apply to your pet, cat or dog.
Definitely. Being left alone for a lot of dogs is a very stressful event in itself. Being left alone in a hot vehicle where the temperature is stifling, there's not good airflow, could also be very stressful. That could lead to not only them overheating and getting sick because of that, but also their body going into a full stress response of just panic, which could cause all sorts of other issues health-wise as well.
Working in the office of a veterinarian, you see animals, pets come in uh, every day. I would imagine sometimes they come in and they have a disease or they need surgery or they've. But how many do you see where pet owners have made mistakes, where their pet has been injured or in some other way needs attention, not because they're not loved, but because pet owners make mistakes?
Probably more times than you would expect, but accidents happen, and a lot of the time it's just because they're not properly informed. So they don't know that something that they were feeding their pet or places they were taking their pet were causing harm until it's progressed enough where they do bring their pet into the vet and then they are informed of what likely has caused the presenting concern.
Well, Madison, give me some examples.
Um, well, heat stroke for one. Pets that are out in the yard all day when it's over 90 degrees outside, even if they are offered shade and cold water, if your pet loves to lay in the sun, they might not know that that's not good for them. They might develop a heat stroke, which will result in them coming to the vet office to hopefully help mitigate their stress response to that and to help cool them down. Some pets come in after eating food items, table scraps, or leftovers from meals that have ingredients owners aren't aware of that pets can't have. The big ones that everyone tells you when you have a pet is that they can't have chocolate, but there's also an extensive list of other ingredients that we use in everyday meals that they can't have, like onions and garlic. They can't have avocados or grapes, which therefore also means no raisins or cranberries and those types of fruits as well. And
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't. So your pet might be sick, and then we come to find out that maybe it was that little treat that they were given off the counter, and it's just because not everybody is properly informed of things. And there's not just one big rule book when you get a dog that you're given that says that this is what they can and can't have and what you should and shouldn't do. So accidents happen all the time.
And dogs don't take their food a little bit at a time. They don't and taste it. They gulp it down. So they're not necessarily aware of everything they're taking in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let me ask you, in your experience with dogs and training companion dogs, and what should a person look for when they're going to get a pet? Are there certain traits that we should look for in an animal or in ourselves?
I think that's a very personal question. Everybody's going to want something different out of their pet. For the person that wants a dog that will go on adventures with them, you're going to want probably a higher energy dog, one that's a little bit more adventurous, not as lazy, very interested and in tune with their people, wanting to be with you and be a part of what you're doing. Other people might prefer just the typical couch potato family dog, and in that case, you're going to want to be looking for a dog that's low in energy, is okay being left alone while you're at work, doesn't mind if it goes out on a long walk every single day. But then for yourself, you need to really consider, do you have the time, the financial resources, and the emotional capability to have a pet? Because when you get a pet, you know that they're not going to be around forever. You also know that they're going to be expensive. Puppies go every 3 to 4 weeks for vaccines up until they're about 4 or 5 months old. Most owners get their dogs spayed or neutered as well, which incurs a lot of financial burden in that first year of having a puppy. And puppies make mistakes, so you have to be forgiving and patient, willing to learn as you go and take the time to train them for what you want and need, because they don't know any better when you get them.
Sounds like many of the same traits that you pick up as a new parent.
Definitely.
What is it about the relationship? I'll ask you personally because I know you love dogs, you've loved your pets. What is it that builds that emotional bond between person and pet?
There's a lot of trust that you build with your pet. Kind of, especially when you get them so young, you become their person. They know to look to you when things are scary. You're showing them that the world is a really cool and exciting place. So they look to you as their person for all that trust. And dogs are very forgiving and loving, and you can make a mistake with training them and they don't care. They're just happy to be with you. And that's a really cool thing to have, especially me being in my early 20s and living alone. Having a companion that's always just happy to see me and be included in my life is very special.
Well said, Madison. Madison Smith giving us pet owners some sound advice, and it's been my prideful pleasure to have her on the program.
I hope that anyone that was listening definitely thinks about their pets this summer with the heat and make sure that they're staying cool during the day, not getting too hot and sick, but also having a good summer.
Love to hear from you. You can reach me through my website, londonmitchell.news. And please accept this invitation to to join us again next week as we continue staying in contact.
Previous installments of Staying in Contact with London Mitchell are available on the Stream 419 app, Spotify, and londonmitchell.news.